What's up guys, and welcome back to Tech Plant. Today I'm going to show you all my rare and uncommon plants. Let's check it out. Alright, so this first plant, we're going to really start with Anthuriums here, and I'm going to try and group these plants just so you don't get confused. But this is probably my most rare uncommon Anthurium, and probably one of the most beautiful ones that I have. This is a crystallinum hybrid, so this is a red crystallinum. The exact hybrid would be, this one is a Tazula Dreamweaver with a Tazula Necromancer, and this is actually 20 of 20, and I have 2 of these, so, or I guess I have one potted one. I don't know if they counted them as 2, but either way, this is one of my truly more uncommon rare plants because there are only so many of these in existence, which is kind of cool. I'm trying to make hybrids with this one too, and I got a few successful seedlings, so we'll have to see how they turn out. But anyways, I really love this one's appearance. I really like crystallinums in general. I think the velvety appearance that they have is awesome, and so having a red variant is pretty beautiful. This leaf is still trying to harden off, so it's not as sparkly yet, but this is a more recent leaf. I don't know how well you can really see this, but I really love this plant. It's one that I keep trying to make hybrids of because it is flowering consistently, and it's just a really awesome Anthurium. Alright, next up is just a regular crystallinum. I know these aren't really that rare anymore or that uncommon, but you really don't see them in stores yet, so I'm going to consider it uncommon. They have come down in price a lot. I got this one probably almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half ago, and I got it as a trade actually, so I did not pay for this one. I wish I could show you the picture. I'm sure I lost it by now. It was one leaf that looked like it had a bite mark out of it, so I got really lucky with how many growth points it really produced. This thing is chock full of leaves, which is amazing because most of my velvet Anthuriums in my current setup, they can't support that many leaves, but just because this one has so many growth points, it really has so many leaves, and that's why I love this one. I'll show you some close-up shots too of this as well, because you can't understand unless you can see the base of this plant. It has tons of different growth points. It's got roots everywhere. It was doing fantastic. There was probably 2 or 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago, I did try and repot this because it was getting a little too big and growing vertically a little too high, so we'll see how it bounces back. It did kind of suffer a little bit. I don't see many new roots on it, but again, another beautiful plant of mine in my collection, and I really love this one. Again, it's an Anthurium crystallinum. Alright, this one is pretty small compared to the previous ones. This one is a Magnificum, so Anthurium Magnificum, very similar to the crystallinum. I struggle to tell the difference sometimes. I do have a lot of these. This one was actually grown from seed. This one still is considered rare and uncommon, but it's really not anymore. A lot of people have been selling seeds, making hybrids, but I don't know. I'm just going to consider it rare because I don't have that many rare plants. But anyways, another really pretty plant. This one is obviously green and it doesn't have that really cool red variety that we saw earlier, but it's nonetheless pretty awesome. It's a velvet Anthurium, and they always have a pretty cool look. Alright, this next Anthurium is actually pretty neat. I got this one at not a big box store. It was more of a garden center. These are still pretty uncommon. I don't see a lot of people with these. I mean, they're not super uncommon, but again, I mean, nothing I own is thousands of dollars, so when I call these things rare, it's pretty subjective. But anyways, it's something you don't commonly see, and it's pretty awesome. I think this one is a radicans crossed with a luxurians. Yep, and this is also an Anthurium. This is one I'm waiting for to start flowering because I want to try and cross this with other plants. It seems like whatever you cross this one with gets this cool bumpy texture to it. It's really cool. It's a very unique style Anthurium compared to the ones I just showed you where they're more flat and velvety. This one's really texture based, and I really like it. This one was a little expensive. I think I paid $50 for it, so not bad. I usually try not to spend a fortune on my plants, which is why I don't have super cool rare plant videos, because most of my plants are not super rare, but rare enough. I don't know why it's so funny to bring up these little plants, but it cracks me up. This one is a vittarifolium. Yeah, vittarifolium. I can't really pronounce these very well. This one actually will get really long strap leaves, but this one is still pretty young. This is a seedling that I grew as well, so I got these seeds through a trade, and I've been trying to grow some other ones. They're not doing so hot, but this one is doing pretty good. So eventually I would love to see it get the 3-foot long leaves, but that might be a few years off. But this one is still pretty rare. A lot of the strap leaf ones, I feel people, 1, can't keep them alive, and 2, there's just not that many being traded around. But of all the strap leaf ones, this one probably is the more common one. I do see many more seeds because this one self-seeds pretty well, I think. So still a very cool Anthurium, and I think you can get these pretty cheap nowadays, but still uncommon. Okay, this next plant is actually an extremely rare plant. A lot of people like to call plants rare or uncommon or whatever, but this one I think there's probably only like maybe 10 to 20 in circulation in the US. So I got this one through a trade through a friend, and this one is like truly rare. I actually have a few other seedlings of this. This one was grown from seed, but this is probably the biggest one I have right now. But yeah, this is probably my rarest plant just because it actually is extremely rare. Like the few that are in circulation are like a third of those are like ones I traded to other people. So it's not a super exciting Anthurium, obviously. Like there's nothing too crazy with colors. It's not variegated or anything, but I do really love its appearance. When it gets bigger, the stems are a little longer and the leaves are also longer, and it gets a really nice look. So I really love this one. This one's quite special to me because I did a lot of research on this one. I didn't tell you what this one was, but this one is Anthurium ensifolium. So yeah, I did a lot of research about this one, and originally it was like it went by a different name. It went through auctions and everything. I tried to follow the history, and I just was able to follow it through a lot of like interesting paths, and it was just a really cool experience. It's hard for me to really describe and explain like even what I'm trying to say, but I really love this plant because of that, and it's probably one of my like most favorite ones in my collection. It's a really neat plant though. I mean, you can't really see that well, but I just really like the leaf structure. I can't wait till I can try and make some hybrids with this one as well. Alright, so this last Anthurium is Anthurium Wildenowii. This one, I wouldn't say this is a super rare Anthurium, but I don't see many people selling this one. I don't see it really up for sale a lot. So I would say it's rare as far as being in people's collections. So I guess you can define rare however you want. It doesn't necessarily have to be the unicorn plant or the one that no one else can like afford. It can just be plants that people usually just don't collect, you know? Because if not a lot of people are collecting them, then I guess they're uncommon just by that fact alone. But it's really cool. It's got like super thick leaves. They're very rigid, even though this one's kind of flopping over. It's pretty neat. I like its like growth style. It's kind of a crown-like growth, and it's just pretty cool. But yeah, this one's the last Anthurium, so we'll move on to Philodendron next. All right, like I said, we are now on to Philodendron, and this first one is going to be a Philodendron Palmoni. I do have the other one that's kind of similar. I forgot the name of it, but it's too small to really show. But this one is actually quite beautiful. I really love this plant a lot, and this one actually, for being sort of rare, is pretty affordable through like online. Like if you do like import, like Equigenera, I think they always had them for a pretty good price. But anyways, they get really big. They're a crawler, so they usually kind of crawl along the ground instead of vine around, so they stay a little more compact, which I like because they're a little easier to keep in a collection. But they really have a very nice color, and they have little splotches of like white or silver on them, and you might not be able to see it from there, but I will put some close-up footage. If you see these ribs here, the leaves get these beautiful, or I shouldn't say the leaves, the stems get these beautiful like ridges on it. It's just a really cool plant with a lot going on, and I really do like it. This one's got some new growth coming in, which is good because I kind of battled it with spider mites for a while. You can kind of see it's a little yellow, a little crispy, but this newest one, massive and doing pretty good. So I like this one a lot. All right, next up, this is a Jose Buono. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that last part. This one is variegated. It did have a lot of like very obvious variegation, but so far in my care, it's really started to turn green. So maybe I'm not giving it enough light. Maybe I'm giving it too much light. I'm not really sure right now, but this one is a pretty decently rare plant. I got this in a trade. Actually, most of the plants you'll see today are ones that I got in a trade. I usually like to trade for stuff more than I like to buy because it sucks to buy stuff. So anyways, this one's pretty cool. Again, it's a really compact one, which I like. I tend to really like Anthurium and the more compact philodendrons because they're just easier to store. But yeah, it's pretty neat. It did have really good variegation at one point in time. I'll show you some close-ups, and you might be able to notice where it used to be. But however I'm taking care of it, it's going away, so I got to figure that one out. This next one is actually a favorite of mine. I really love the billietiae. I think it's called a billietiae, Philodendron billietiae, or most people just call them billies. I'll put it up on the screen just because I can't pronounce it well. But I really love this plant because of the leaf shape, although do ignore this part of the leaf shape because that is not supposed to happen. For whatever reason, they're like not coming out of their sheath very well when they're growing. You can see it damages the ears and the tip. This one again with the tip, I don't know what's going on. I'm hoping, I got high hopes for this one, that it comes out perfect because this leaf is going to be pretty darn big. But yeah, it's a really nice plant. You know, I would love to get the ultra rare variegated one that people sell for thousands, but I don't think any plant is worth thousands of dollars, so that's not happening. Maybe not for a few more years, but or before it comes down in price, because they always do. But anyways, it's got a really nice orange stem with the big, beautiful green leaves, and it's just a really cool plant to have in your collection. This next plant is a burle marx variegated philodendron here, and this one is a pretty neat, actually very interesting one of the more interesting philodendrons in my opinion. It has a crazy growth pattern where you can't see quite as well from here, but you can see how full it is, right? Well, basically the growth, the main node area just keeps dividing and dividing, and suddenly you have like 10 different growth points out of one like cutting. It just gets crazy and it keeps getting crazier. So it's very unique to this plant, I think. I don't really know many other that do it, but yeah, it's a fantastic, awesome plant, and it can really fill out a pot or really anywhere you put it. This one is variegated, although it doesn't really look like it because it's really hard to keep it consistent. You got to do a lot of cutting constantly to really get a good specimen, but I haven't had the time to really chop away, and I don't mind it in its green variant either. But it's a pretty cool plant, and I would consider this one kind of rare too. Alright, so this next one is like the holy grail of the plant world, or at least it used to be. It's kind of fallen from that as of late, but this one is the PSS, or the Philodendron Spiritus Sancti. So this is a pretty rare one traditionally that everyone was after. It used to be thousands of dollars. I traded for this because you'll probably never see me spend $1,000 on a plant. I don't have it in me, and I don't take care of my plants well enough to be spending that much. But anyways, I ended up getting this one, which I'm really lucky and thankful I was able to trade for it. It is a little sickly right now because that was kind of part of the reason I was able to trade for it. I wasn't trading for a really amazing specimen, so it'll take some time. And I did have 2 vacations to Korea in the last like 2 months, so the spider mites really got a hold of this guy here. So he's in recovery, and soon he'll be in good condition. But I'm really hoping to get it similar to that size of that billy, the little billy that you saw earlier, where it's really healthy and really growing well, because this one can get some amazingly long leaves with a really cool shape. So I hope I can get this one big, but this is probably one of my other more like rare plants or uncommon plants. But again, this one, the prices come way down. I mean, it used to be like 10,000. Now you can get these for like a few $100s if you really search. So they're not that crazy expensive anymore, but still a pretty cool plant to have. All right, this next one is a velvet philodendron. It's like one of those. There's a bunch of different ones. I believe this one is Gloriosum. So I have a melanochrysum, which you've all seen, so I'm not even going to put it in the video, and I got a bunch of little baby ones everywhere. But this is this one is still pretty small. This was from a cutting. This is a Gloriosum, but it's pretty similar. This one will be a little more round, and the veins will get a little more white as it gets older. So it looks pretty cool. It is distinct from melanochrysum, and it's cool to have this one as well. This one is also a crawler, so this one will crawl along the ground before it really vines around. So it can stay a little more compact, which again is something I always like to have in my collection because it's just easier to manage. All right, this next one is a Philodendron Splendid. This one actually looks quite similar to the melanochrysum, and it also looks quite similar to the Gloriosum. This one, however, you can tell right away is more of a vining velvet philodendron. So it's getting pretty big and pretty awesome. I really do need to get it climbing something because these, again, the leaves can get huge. I mean, they can be so beautiful, and I don't know how well you can tell on camera, but this one's getting pretty big, and it's just got such a nice velvety appearance. And we have new growth coming out here, which looks like it's going to be even bigger than this leaf, so I'm pretty excited. I honestly don't know why it's getting bigger and bigger because I haven't really supported it well. But nonetheless, it is, and I really love it. This one also is pretty rare. I don't see many people mention Splendids much. I've seen a lot of Gloriosum, I've seen a lot of melanochrysum, but not so much of the Splendid. So this one's pretty cool too. All right, this big boy, although it looks quite sad, I've had a lot of fights with this one and spider mites and just keeping it coming out of the sheath well, so don't judge me too much. But this one is Philodendron pasta something. I forget what it is. Pasta something. I don't know. I'll put it on the screen, but this one is pretty darn cool. This one is also a crawler. You can see this huge, thick growth here. I mean, this vine is probably like almost 2 inches thick. It's huge. Really awesome. And like I said, it's crawling. You can see how compact this one is. I just have to figure out what it likes and why it wants to crumple its leaves. It doesn't want to come out of the sheath very well, but and I've had some spider mite damage. A lot of my plants got spider mite damage, but again, another pretty cool philodendron. I really like this one because it can get really big, beautiful green leaves. A lot of the ones I've showed you can get pretty big leaves, but again, this one's a little more unique because they are just nice, beautiful green leaves, and they got really thick veins when they get big, and they just look supreme. I really like it. This one was also a trade, just like the Splendid and the Gloriosum. A lot of my plants are trades. I think that's honestly the best way to get rare plants. Make some friends. I'm sure you have something that's semi-rare or desirable, and you can make trades with all kinds of people to get some cool rare plants. Alright, so the last category is going to be Monstera. I only really did 3 categories today, but I don't have, well, I do have some other uncommon plants, but I don't know if they're worth talking about in this video because it's already getting pretty long. But we'll just do the last category for this video, today's video, and that is going to be Monstera. And so this one is Monstera esqueleto. This was a gift from someone really awesome. This one almost, okay, that one's just not going to stand up. This was sort of climbing my wall, but it fell off a few times, so it's starting to get small again. You can really see the effects of like no wall support. You got really big at one point because they were growing up a wall and attaching really well, and then they started to get small again. So I got a lot of care to do on this one, but I'm quite happy with its growth so far because it started out with just a node, I believe. Maybe there was 2 leaves on there, but it really took off, and it's got a lot that I can chop up and repropagate and really get going. But I love this one because it's like Atreum, but just so much bigger. And this one has even more potential. Like, if I could actually get this to full size like it can in tropical areas, it would be wild. I mean, the leaves can be like this. They're huge. So another really awesome plant. I think if you guys want to get a hold of this, I think Costa Farms might be releasing this one pretty soon, or they already did, but it's a little expensive. I would try and trade for it with other people. Wait until they get their Costa. Wait for those people to buy the Costa Farms one and propagate it, and you might be able to get it a little cheaper as demand goes down, because it seems like with the economy, the plant bubble is also popping and crashing. So soon you'll be able to get your hands on these for pretty cheap too. But right now it's a little rare, but pretty cool. Okay, so next up for our Monstera plants, this one is Monstera Dubia. This one can be actually pretty darn crazy as well. It looks small right now as a little shingle plant, but the leaves can easily get like 2, 3, almost probably 3 feet long. It's hard to tell from this distance, but I'll put some close-ups in there. I had this in a propagation bin for a really long time, and I really struggled to get it big. What is this? A dead Anthurium of some kind. Anyways, it was really small, and you can see it's evident by these tiny leaves. It took forever to get big. Finally, it started to get and reached to a wall and started growing up the wall. Fell off, but it really got big. It really goes to show that if you can get these dubia growing up something like a plank or a wall, they really start to get big quick. So I got to cut this one up and try and propagate it and really start fresh with this on a stick, and it'll get pretty big. But this one I would still say is still pretty rare because there never was really a giant demand for it. So there's not that many out there because it's a shingle plant, and they're not quite as exciting compared to other plants. But I still think it's pretty cool. Last but not least, look at this fine specimen. This is the Monstera obliqua, actually. I have not taken very good care of this. Once it started doing its whole little runner thing, I just kind of let it do its thing. It's slowly been losing some of these main leaves because they've just aged and gotten very old. But I'll show you in the close-up. There's a lot of new growth at the very center of this one. So I'm not worried about it. It's growing, just albeit very slowly. But when it does kind of take off, there's going to be a lot of growth on this thing, and it's going to be pretty sweet. And I really should start propagating these runners. I might as well. I mean, they're doing nothing right now. I do want to kind of experiment with chucking them on like a wall or something right here and just see how big it gets, to kind of prove that once the runner finds suitable areas, it starts to grow into a normal plant, you know, because that's what it's doing. So I'll probably do some cool experiments with this one, but this is one I always loved. This one I actually paid for. This was a rare plant that I've wanted since like the whole rare plant thing ever even started. So I'm glad I have it. It's still alive, although it doesn't really look that great. It has the potential, so I'm not worried about it. Well guys, that pretty much sums up this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It was pretty neat to show you all of my like not prized possessions, but the ones I really like a lot and the ones that I would consider a little more uncommon and not seen everywhere. I hope you guys really enjoyed these plants, and maybe you found some new ones you want to add to your collection. Lucky for you, nowadays the plant bubble pretty much popped, and you can pick up a lot of these plants for pretty cheap. So hopefully you guys like this video and you want to see more like this. And as always, may your plants grow strong and healthy. I'll see you next time.